Hey there, I'm Adrienne, and in this class, we're talking all about your knees and how to create and support happy knee joints. So before we get started, I do want to just say that there are a plethora of reasons that you could experience knee pain or knee discomfort. So for the sake of this video, I'm only going to be addressing a few, some of the ones that I find most common in my massage clients and my yoga students. However, there's no way I can address all of the issues, and it's going to be individual to every person. So if you are experiencing knee pain or knee sensitivity, please make sure that you go get checked out by a doctor or an osteopath and make sure that you don't have anything going on that's serious, and also get some answers for your own personal body. The things that we're going to be addressing today specifically have to do with the front of the thighs. And so this video is going to be really great if you ever experience knee pain or knee discomfort in your inner knee, right on the inside here, along the top of the knee or underneath the knee, or on this outside lateral part of the knee. Now, before we get started, you do need a couple of things for practice. You need a big foam roller. So I have my foam roller right here. If you have a little one, like the one that I have over there, that can work, but we are going to be laying our leg, like our shin, on the foam roller. So it's better if you have a longer one. And then the other thing that you'll need is some sort of massage ball. So I have a tennis ball right here. You can also use an actual massage ball or a lacrosse ball. Just a little note about the lacrosse ball. A lot of the times the places around our knees and our thighs that we're going to be working are really sensational. So a lacrosse ball might be just way too much for you. I always recommend starting with a tennis ball because it has a little more give. And then if you want more sensation or intensity, you can graduate up to a lacrosse ball. The tennis ball I also love too, because you can get these for like $1 or $2 really anywhere, right? They're a really accessible self-massage tool to get your hands on. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start on my right leg because this is my painful side. My right knee is definitely more of my problem area. So I'm going to start massaging my right leg. You can start, if you have a bad knee, then start on that side. I also do want to say before we come down to that, if you don't have any knee pain or knee discomfort, that's totally fine. This is a really good way to prevent knee pain or knee discomfort from happening in the future. So you can totally do this class even if you don't actively have pain in your knee. All right, so let's go ahead and come on down. So you can come onto your side and you're going to lay on your outer hip. So I have my right leg on top because I'm going to work on that knee first. And then take your foam roller in front of you. And you're going to extend your bottom leg straight out and take your top leg to the foam roller and have your knee at about a 90-degree angle. And this is why I said you'll want a long foam roller, because you want your whole shin, inner shin, to rest on the foam roller. And then you can come down onto your arm here. I like to just rest my head on my hand. If that's comfortable for you, you can do the same. You can also use, if that's uncomfortable for your wrist, you can also totally take like a yoga block and place a block underneath your head or a pillow or a blanket. So use your top hand and press your top hand into the ground. You can either make a fist or you can come onto the fingers, but that's just going to help you stabilize a little. Now, to get started, so we're going to be working on our adductors, those inner thigh muscles. And as we're moving through this practice, I do recommend that if you have active knee pain, especially in one of the areas that we're talking about, you can always pause this video and work a little bit longer on that area, especially if you're finding some really good spots. But for the sake of this class, we're just going to kind of do everything evenly and keep it moving. So start with your hips stacked. Top hip is directly over the bottom hip. And just notice if the pelvis is rolling back or forward. We want to create the awareness of a stacked pelvis. So top hip right over that bottom hip. And now, very slowly, you're going to start to roll the pelvis forward and roll on that inside edge of your thigh. And then pull it back. And we're just going to do that a few times. And as you do this, lean your weight into the foam roller as much as comfortable. Roll forward and then roll back. And right now, because I started closer to my knee, I'm only massaging about the, half lower part of my inner thigh. And you might already be noticing that there are some places in there that feel a little sensational. So I want you to find a spot that feels sensational and then gently press your leg into the foam roller. Keep the foam roller directly on that sensational spot and then lift your foot up towards the ceiling. Ooh, yeah, and then lower. And we'll do that a couple times. So lift and lower. Try to keep your foot flexed as you're moving. Not super flexed, but you do want to keep the foot active. Not so much that you're causing unnecessary tension in the ankle or anything. Good, last one. And then I'm gonna move my foam roller just a little closer to me, and now I'll work a higher up in towards that top half of the inner thigh. So same thing, roll forward and roll back. Roll forward, roll back. And again, you might notice, I'm actually gonna move my foam roller even closer. There might be some good spots. For me, as I get closer to my pelvis, there's some really good spots in there. If I can get it just right, yep, right there. And with all this foam rolling and self-massage stuff, it takes some practice to really start getting used to finding the spots within your body. So just play around with it. And then once you find a spot, same thing, you're gonna lift, ooh, and lower. Another thing that I wanna mention, we're gonna keep that going, is continue to breathe through this entire thing. Try to make sure you're not holding your breath. And if you're causing any sort of pain where it goes past that level of therapeutic discomfort, then back off, right? Either switch places. You can change the position of your foam roller so it's just off the sensational spot. And also make sure that you're not causing yourself any nerve pain. So that would be like tingling, burning, icy hot, numbing. Good, and then relax. Whew, yeah. And then bring your leg, bring the shin to the foam roller. So you want your inner thigh, or I'm sorry, inner foot resting on the foam roller. So my whole lower leg is now supported by the foam roller. Take your top hand, if it's anywhere else, press it down into the floor, creating that stability through the upper body. And now we're actually going to work on strengthening our outer hip and our IT band. So now this is going to be more, the IT band stabilizes the knee when we're walking and stuff like that. So having a nice healthy outer hip, because these muscles here connect down into the IT band, the stronger your muscles are here, the more mobile they are, the more stable your knee is when you walk. So create that stability through the upper body, press the inside of your foot into the foam roller, and then lift your knee. And you might not go that far. Lower, and then lift, and lower. Lift, lower. Let's do two more. Lift, ooh, and lower. Lift, and lower. Whew, good. All right, now from here, we're going to take our tennis ball. So go ahead and grab your tennis ball. Let me slide the foam roller out of the way. And we're gonna massage right at the inside of the knee here. So now we're going to be really working on where those tendons and ligaments attach. So same thing, you can roll more onto your belly if that's comfortable for you. And I have my ball right here, not on the lower leg, right on that inner upper thigh right here. And then start to just gently apply pressure and make small circles really slowly until you find a sensational spot. Find that sensational spot, and then we're going to do what we did on the foam roller. Lift the leg, foot up, and then release, and lift, and release. Good. Breathing as you move. And then maybe try to find just one more little spot. if you can, so you can either keep your knee bent or you can even straighten your leg a little bit so that we are working now more on the top of the knee there at that quad attachment. And then you can also just play around with rotating the foot so that you're sort of sliding the ball right across the top of the knee there. And as always, I recommend that if you find a really sensational spot, almost like a take your breath away spot, then just pause there, take a couple breaths, and you can stay on that spot, but do kind of tiny little movements. I call this scrubbing it out, when you just do those tiny little back and forth movements. And then you can roll actually all the way more onto your belly and really get the top of that quad, or the quad attachment to into the patellar ligament. Good. And then take that ball out, and we're going to use the foam roller, and now we're going to foam roll our whole quad. So this can be rather intense, so please be mindful. We're going to start by placing the foam roller right at the top of the quad. So your bony hip point is right up here, and we're going to start right below that. If you almost can feel sometimes there's like a top attachment point where it kind of comes to a head. On people that have really defined quads, you'll see that sort of V shape right to up here. So that's the top of your quad muscle. We're going to start by rolling it there, or placing it there. And then you can just bring your other leg off to the side. So I know you can't really see me, but my knee is bent, just like we were kind of on the other side in a one-legged froggy position-ish. And then I'm on my forearms. You can do what's comfortable. I think this is most comfortable because this keeps my spine in one nice long line. And then just start to gently roll forward. And we're going to work that upper half of the quad, slowly rolling back and forth. Make sure that you're not rolling quickly. You want to take this nice and slow, breathing as you move. And then somewhere in there, you're going to find one of those little sensational spots. So mine is right there. I also want to mention too, if you find any spots that you feel radiate down to your knee, that's going to be a really important place to hang out and breathe into. But I've got a sensational spot right there. If this is already enough, just stay. If you want more, then gently flex your foot and bring your heel in towards your booty, and then extend, and then bend, and extend. Good. And now we're going to move so that we're doing that lower half of the quad. So right about where it stopped, now you're going to be starting there and then rolling all the way down to just above the knee. Looking for any of those super sensational spots. You can also play around with where your leg is. So you can kind of roll more to the inner or the outer, depending on where you feel the most sensation. Play around a little bit. And then once you have a sensational spot, gently flex the foot. Same thing, bend and extend, bend and extend. Good. And then sometimes if you get just right above the kneecap, there's some really good spots right in there. If you find a spot, hang out and breathe for a moment, or you can also try bending the knee, but when it's close to the knee like this, it'll probably be really hard to do that, and it might cause you unnecessary pain. So for this, when you're close to the knee, towards those ligaments and tendons, just pause and breathe. Maybe you can do that little scrubbing action, going back and forth staying on the spot, but just rocking back and forth. Woo. Some good places in there. All right, so now we're gonna work on the quad and the IT band. So I'm not a huge fan of foam rolling the IT band itself. The IT band runs on this outside of the leg, lateral line of the leg. But what I do find is that the quad and the IT band, so just a little bit in front of the IT band along that outer lateral quad, the IT band and the quad can often get stuck or adhered together, and then that impedes the movement of both the quad and the IT band. So what we want to do is roll right along that sort of outer edge of the quad and think about separating the IT band from the quad. So we're going to start by starting at the TFL, which is your tensor fascia lata. This is actually the muscle that connects down into the IT band, or one of them. So if you find your front bony hip point and then roll to the outside edge, somewhere right along in this area, we're gonna be starting with the foam roller. So you can you'll have to sort of turn your hip, okay, and roll towards more of the lateral side. And then same thing, my other leg is just off to the side with my knee bent. And then you're gonna start to roll on that outer lateral edge of the quad. And so you can tell my foot is turned in because I'm more on that outside edge. Ooh, yeah. And you just wanna work that whole kind of upper half, all the way up into the TFL, that little muscle right at the top of the hip there. Nice and slow. If you find one of those sensational spots, you can do little gentle rocks. And if you ever find that foam rolling is just way intense, you can also put a blanket or a towel over the foam roller, and that can add some cushion if you're just like, this sucks. And if you're holding your breath and tensing, and if it's causing you a lot of pain, then, please modify. All right, we're gonna move it a little lower. So now we're gonna be working on that bottom half. So same thing. And you wanna go all the way down to that outer knee, right above the kneecap. Not quite to the knee, but just above it. I'm gonna scoop my foam roller down. Make sure you're really not holding your breath. When we breathe, we tell our bodies that we're safe. And if you hold your breath, then your muscles are gonna tense up, and we wanna try our best to actually relax as much as we can when we're doing this. Oh yeah, I've got some really good spots right in there. Do a little scrubbing action, rocking back and forth. And then I'm just gonna do one nice long slide all the way, up the quad, all the way to the top. And then relax. So again, spend a lot of time there if that's your problem knee. Really work on all those sensational places that you can find. The last thing that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna strengthen the opposite leg on the inner thigh. So same leg that you're working on, we're gonna come back into that starting position. Place your leg on top of the foam roller. And let me just move this up so you guys can see my leg over here. So the bottom leg is extended, flex the foot. Same thing with that top hand. You're gonna press it into the ground in front of you to stabilize the upper body. And then lift your foot up and bring it down. You can also press this leg into the foam roller, lift, and put it down. And this is working on the strength of our inner thigh muscles, kind of counterbalancing what we were doing with those knee lifts on the foam roller to strengthen the outer. This is strengthening the inner. Good, let's do two more. And then on this last one, we're just gonna hold here and do little pulses for 5, 4, 3, try to keep everything else still, 2, and 1, release. All right, so we're gonna move on to the other side. So go ahead and flip around however you wanna get there. And I do recommend doing both knees because it always surprises me, even though my right one is the one that gives me problems, I find lots of good stuff in my left knee too. Just like I mentioned, even though you don't have pain, doesn't mean that there's nothing in there. A lot of times when we apply pressure, we're like, oh, there's a spot I didn't even know about. So again, start with the hips stacked. We're gonna work on that bottom lower half of the inner thigh first. So roll forward and roll back. Applying gentle pressure. And as you're working, once you find one of those sensational spots, you're gonna lift the foot and then lower, lift, and lower. And I mean, this is sensational, but it's nothing like my right side right in here. So you might notice you have two very different sides. Good, last one. And then make your way back to center. You're gonna bring the foam roller a little closer to you because now we wanna work on that upper half. So roll forward and back. And you can also play around with holding your leg in a slightly different position. So even if you don't have your shin parallel to the floor, sometimes it's gonna depend on everybody's body, right? I feel it more if I slightly keep my leg lifted. That starts to target the areas that feel more sensational to me. So play around with it, especially if you're newer to self-massage. Sometimes it just takes some practice to really start to figure out how to find those sensational spots in your body. So, ooh, yeah, there's one. So now you're gonna keep your foam roller on that spot and then lift, oh my goodness, and lower. Always a surprise in this left leg. Good, couple more times. Oh, good. All right, now make your way back so that the lower leg is completely on the foam roller. You're gonna use your top hand down on the mat to stabilize your upper body. Press the inside of your foot into the foam roller and then lift your knee off and then lower. And then lift and lower. As you're doing this, try to have your knee in a 90-degree position so that knee is straight out from your outer hip joint. And we really just want to think about moving the femur bone, that thigh bone, in the hip socket. Whew, okay, let's use our tennis ball. So I'm going to slide my foam roller off to the side. Tennis ball is back here. And then now we're going to be working on that inner part of your knee and maybe even the patellar ligament at the top of the quad. So place the tennis ball or whatever ball you're using right on that inner knee there, and you'll start to make some circles, looking for sensational places. Whoop, yep, there's one. And you can do same thing, sort of lifting and lowering the foot, or just do small circles and breathe. And then you can also start to roll more to the top, right at the patellar ligament, more towards the quad. So you can also move your ball further away from you and even roll more onto your belly to get right at the top of that knee. And kind of rolling across the top of the knee, back and forth. Remember to go slow. We're not just going really fast. We really want to spend time here. Ooh, yeah. All right, nice. So go ahead and relax that. Again, always hang out and practice it a little longer if you find that you need it, or if there was some super good sensational spots in there. Excuse me. And now we're going to be foam rolling our quad on that side. So you're going to start. We're going to be placing the foam roller right at the top. We're going to work on that top half first. So go ahead and come on down. So now, because we're doing the top of the quad, your top of the foot should also be down on the floor. And then you can start to work right at that insertion point a little bit, going back and forth. And eventually maybe rolling forward and rolling back. Nice and slow. Looking for those sticky spots. And once you find one, gently flex your foot. An option to bend the knee and extend. Maybe adjusting your position. You can always change it around, even if it's just a centimeter. It might get into a new spot if you change it just a little bit. Because sometimes too, as you're working on these spots, as you work on them, they'll start to get less painful because they're relaxing a little bit. That also might not happen, but it might happen too. And then let's do the lower part of the quad. So starting right about the middle and then rolling all the way down to the top of the knee and all the way back. And then again, looking for a sensational spot. You can hang out or you can bend and straighten. Whew. And then go a little lower and work just at the top of that knee. So again, you might try bending the knee, but it's going to be probably pretty hard on these spots. So if it causes too much pain or discomfort, for me, it doesn't feel good to try bending my knee when I'm this close to the kneecap. So just play around. That's about as much as I can bend my knee there without it feeling like I'm going into pain. Whew. All right, and then let's do that kind of line between the quad and the IT band. So now we're going to be thinking about separating the quad from the IT band, and we're going to start all the way up at that TFL. So front of your hip, bony hip point, right on the outside, somewhere in this area. You're going to start there. So you want to kind of roll to the outer hip. So you'll notice my toes are turned in. And then just start to roll. You can roll towards that upper part of the hip on the TFL. And then start to roll all the way down. Ooh. And go nice and slow. And again, just noticing if you're feeling any of those spots radiate down to your knee, right? If you feel pain in your knee when you're working on one of the spots in your thigh, that's considered a trigger point, and that's the point you want to work on so that you reduce the pain in your knee. And if you don't find any of those, that's okay. Ooh. And then make sure you're going to go all the way down. So I'm just going to move my foam roller. Whoop. Getting that outer part. And you'll notice here, like especially as I get down to the knee, this is really sensitive. So I'm up on the hand so that I don't put as much pressure on the foam roller. And I also have pressure in my other knee here that's down on the ground so that not all my weight is on the foam roller. And that way I can adjust how much pressure I'm applying, right? Do that little scrubbing action. Oh my goodness, that is a good spot right there for me. And then I'm just gonna do a nice slow roll all the way up. Ooh. All right, very last thing we're gonna do is that inner thigh exercise. So come back down onto your side and extend the top leg, or I'm sorry, extend the bottom leg out. Top leg is on the foam roller. So let me just move my foam roller up so you can see this bottom leg. Top hand, pressing down into the floor to stabilize yourself. Flex your extended leg, the bottom leg, and then lift and lower. Lift and lower. You can also do these exercises with an ankle weight on. I just don't have an ankle weight, and without the ankle weight, you're just improving mobility. And then if you wanted to start strengthening a little more, you could definitely add weight. Trying to keep everything as still and neutral as possible. Just move that leg. And then let's do 2 more. And on this last one, we're gonna hold and do little pulses up towards the ceiling for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew, relax. Nice job. All right, the very last thing we're gonna do is we did a little bit of mobility and strengthening work for the outer. We did a little bit for the inner. So now we're gonna work on the quads. So again, this would be an exercise you could also do with ankle weights. But you're gonna sit on your booty and take the, oh, I'm shedding today. Take the foam roller right underneath the backs of your knees. And then have your feet at about hip width. You can take your hands behind you to support yourself. Gently press the back of your knees into the foam roller just so you feel a little bit of pressure. And then you're going to lift your heels and extend and then release. And each time you release, try to really relax the quad muscles. Try not to let them stay contracted, even if that means sort of shaking them out a little bit. And then lift and relax. Lift and relax. Couple more. Last one. This time we're gonna hold extended. Woo. My right leg starts shaking. Good, deep breath in. Exhale, relax. And then just shake it out. You can kind of roll the back of your knees across the quad or across the foam roller. All right, fly that out from underneath. You might even take a moment just to extend your legs out in front of you, and you can use your hands and just sort of gently smooth that out. A lot of times with my massage clients, when I do really deep work, I like to say that I'm making nice after with just some nice light relaxing strokes instead of that super deep pressure. So you can just sort of slide your hands along the legs, relaxing all those muscles that we just worked. And then the very last thing that we're gonna do, your kneecap is a floating bone. And I know it's a little weird for some people to grab onto, but I do actually want you to take your fingers and you're gonna start to work around the kneecap and move the kneecap around. And as you're doing that, sometimes you're gonna find some crunchy sensational areas in there. So basically what I'm doing right now is I have my index finger and my thumb sort of pinching the outsides of the kneecap, and I want to think about going underneath the kneecap, and then I'm doing that little scrubbing action, so slightly back and forth. And like I've got a little crunchy right in there on my right knee, so I can work on that a little bit. And then move them all around, go one way, go the other way. Whew. And then just give them some big squeezes. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.